Hey, what is going on, everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're going to be jumping into another session of Epic 7. Now, today, got some more update content for you guys. That's right, this week we have a pretty short and sweet patch note that we're going to go over. There's actually a couple big notable things in here, but let's first get started with the special side story. So we're going to be welcomed to Oasis land, which is kind of cool. And with this new event, that's actually kind of like a Guitar Hero type of little thing going on. It's not like it's kind of like when we did the volleyball mini game, right? They have another mini game thing going on here. You can see it in the 1-minute patch preview on the Epic 7 YouTube channel. But yeah, it's gonna be quite interesting. Keep in mind that Summer Ida, my thoughts and opinions on her, by the way, are inconclusive. I don't know if she's gonna be good. I don't know if she's gonna be subpar. But I do know that she's a fire element, and that fire elements are actually in a decent spot right now in RTA because there's not many viable ice units that are commonly used out there, and the most popular out of the RGB lineup right now is currently earth units, so fire units could have a decent spot, right? Ida seems interesting, but we'll have to see, especially with me with a slower playstyle. I'm going to see if she can kind of fit into my drafts. Not really too sure. But I'll get back to you on that. I'll definitely have some videos, showcase videos, and RTA videos featuring her. So if you're interested in that and you're not subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to look out for that. Keep in mind also we have a second Summer Limited unit coming up as well, right? The girl with the pink hair, no one knows who she is. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. If you're unsure about whether you should summon for Ida or not, hold off like 2 weeks until near the end of her banner, where we probably get more information on her, this other girl here, and yeah, then you can decide what you want to do, right? So let's keep moving on. So the first major piece of news is we have 2 new exclusive equipments, one for Lethe and one for BBK. Pretty cool for Lethe because she's a fan favorite for a couple big reasons, but BBK also pretty versatile unit, actually, very usable in RTA. Now Lethe, really good in Guild Wars, good in Arena, right? Not as much in RTA because of injury being so prevalent, especially with Empyrean Ilynav on the horizon. It's going to be kind of hard for Lethe to do anything, but her EE looking pretty nice. She gets an extra bonus up to 14% health with the EE, which is fantastic, helps boost her damage, survivability, all that good stuff. Now the 3 effects here goes as follows. The Wave Slash EE gives her increased damage dealt by Call of the Abyss by 10%. That's her extra attack with the giant octopus that comes out and attacks, right? So that's actually pretty nice because the problem I've had with Lethe in the past is that she just barely misses a kill, right? She just barely misses the kill. So for example, if you normally do 20k damage, with 10% extra, you'll be dealing 22k damage, which is actually good. It's not bad. It's kind of a small little buff, right, in terms of damage, but it's noticeable enough that it should be enough to secure kills, especially because that difference also doesn't take into account that you'll have 14% extra health, right? And that's going to help as well, especially if you have Prayer of Solitude, her own artifact. That artifact applies after everything, including this EE, which means you would get even more health. So your damage dealt is probably going to be more than the 22k, right, from the extra 10%, just because your stats are higher overall. Pretty good. The second effect is that you can increase Call of the Abyss's amount recovered by 20%. In my opinion, kind of a win more effect. Most of the times people are either struggling to kill with Lethe, like you're barely missing the kill that you need, or Lethe is getting injured, controlled, or killed before she's able to ramp up. Because Lethe normally just S1 somebody, puts an omen on them. On her next turn, she soul burns her S3 for free. She gets to put a second omen, takes the extra turn, S1s, gets that last omen, boom. Unit is dead, extincted, good stuff, right? I can see this being kind of useful sometimes, depending on your build, depending on your playstyle, but I think it's way more niche than just securing the kill, and compared to the next one, actually kind of even more niche, right? So this last one here is also really good. I'd say tied with the amount of damage increase right here. This actually prevents you from triggering a counterattack from the enemy when you use your S3, the freeze over skill, right? The one that puts frostbite and all that stuff on your opponent. It's really nice because if you're going to things like Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Euphine, right? You don't necessarily need the extra damage. Lethe already does pretty nice damage overall with pretty standard standard builds, right? The increased damage dealt's good for killing knights or things like that. Really bulky units you just really want to secure those kills on. This S3 is good for the units that can counter you, of course. Like, you don't want Navy Captain Lane to counter you, bring you down to half health with a S1 and a salvo. But this is also really nice because you don't need the extra damage to kill those units like Abyssal Yuffie, Navy Captain Landy, all that good stuff. Because those DPS units are usually under 20k health, and Lethe can easily deal up to 20k for free, basically, with her S3, with the right amount of HP. So, yeah, I'd say the first EE and the second, and the third EE are the best to go for. The second one is kind of niche, it's kind of a win more situation, right? But moving on here, we have Bloodblade Karin. Bloodblade Karin actually has a crit chance EE, which is a little annoying because now I have to go back and tweak my build, get some of the crit chance off and replace it with some other stats. But BBK is actually pretty versatile, so Cleave players can actually use BBK, Cleave aggro players, and they use her as a damage dealer that's really safe because she has immortality on her at the start of the battle, right? And then there's the other camp of people, like me, who use her as an anti-Cleave unit, because you can just sit there with immortality, they can't kill her, and then you just counter-cleave your opponent with an S3. It's pretty cool. So they actually did take that into consideration, kind of like with Arbiter Vildred, right? His EE was actually really nice because it made him really versatile. BBK here, with the first EE, upon receiving lethal damage, she grants immortality for 1 turn. This can only be activated once per battle, so no cooldown or anything like that to get it back. But this is really nice. She basically is like a Karin or Genoa now, where you get the immortality if you're about to die. It's really good because normally people would soul burn, ignore res, strip like your BBK's immortality at the start of the battle, and then you're kind of screwed. She just dies, right? She has no bulk usually, all damage. And if you're building her with resistance, again, ignore res units can just strip her buffs, and that's a bit of an issue. But now, if they strip those buffs, they don't have a follow-up unit that can strip the second immortality, well, then they're screwed. So she's actually a pretty decent unit now with this. Just a slight tweak, right? And she's so much more viable now. It's pretty nice. Now, the next DE grants increased attack greater instead of increased attack when using her Blade Art Dragon. That's her S3. I'd say this is probably the weakest out of the 3, mostly because the fact that she gets her attack buff after she S3s. So if she S3s and kills, great, she gets that attack buff, right? And then you get to S1, and you can deal a good amount of damage. You heal quite a bit too. But the increased attack greater is normally not necessary. I guess in some cases it could come up. I'd say it's way more valuable to just have the immortality the second time, to guarantee that she lives to see another turn, right? Especially if your opponent can't strip it, then you're basically going to kill them the next turn anyway, so it's not bad. This one here, the last one, a third EE, just increases damage dealt by Blade Art Dragon by 10%. I think this is probably going to be used by aggro Cleave players. I guess the second one could be as well, depending. But I'd say the increased damage dealt on the S3 is pretty nice, helps you secure some kills that you normally wouldn't be able to get, and she does a lot of damage, right? She does a lot of damage. So this can actually be pretty nice. Secure some kills, then you can actually go into the S1. I'd say it's a bit more valuable than granting the greater attack buff after you S3. But that's just my 2 cents on these 2 EEs. I think they're really nice. Yeah, I actually kind of forgot it was EE season, so there we go. These 2 EEs, by the way, use Wisdom's Gaze, not Fate's Gaze, so you don't have to rank high in the Abyssal Yuffie fights to get it. You just have to kind of get some points and do your weekly clear, and you'll be okay. But yeah, they'll be available to craft as well in the future, so don't worry about it too much. If you can't get it, get the desired stat line that you want. Okay, next up we have Charlotte Abyssal, or Elbrus Ritual Sword drop rate up. Pretty cool for the Elbrus Ritual Sword. Don't recommend you summon. Please don't summon. Save your bookmarks for the summer limiteds that are going to be coming up. Please, 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 right? Don't use your resources on this. The next couple things, a small improvement here. You know, we're going to skip all this stuff. These minor adjustments don't really care about. I'll talk about Hutch's pop-up shop in a bit. But look at this. Second major update is Grace of Growth, okay? So Grace of Growth here is getting a second slot, right? Fantastic. 1,500 Skystones. Now, if it was a one-time purchase thing, I'd be like, okay, I can kind of see some people wanting that, right? Maybe I would do it myself if I was testing units, just having some fun. No. This is for 30 days. You have to pay 1,500 Skystones every month to just get a second Grace of Growth slot. please don't unlock a second Grace of Growth slot, especially because they already buffed Grace of Growth just now, so that your Grace of Growth doesn't give you plus 12, it's a plus 15. So you get a fully functional unit at full power. Yeah, just plan your Grace of Growths accordingly, right? If you're using your Grace of Growth for Hall of Trials and stuff, just use this on the unit that you don't normally have, like Guide or Aether or something, right? Grace of Growth them, then go into battle, do your stuff, unequip the Grace of Growth, wait 3 days, and put it back onto a unit that you want to use for the time being. The second slot, only being 30 days, is a terrible deal. Please don't unlock this. Save your Sky Stones. At that point, with 1500 Sky Stones, you might as well just build up the unit that you're trying to Grace of Growth anyway. It'll cost you less overall. It'll just cost some gold, some runes and stuff, right? Way cheaper than 1500 Sky Stones. So I personally would not be unlocking this, especially because it's not a permanent feature. Okay, so just want to put that out there. Don't be excited and get scammed thinking, oh, this is Grace for forever. No, it's not. And I'm sure there are going to be people out there that are going to be tricked by something like this. Okay, okay. So next up, we also have. Let's see here. Oh, that's it for this section of the patch notes. Alright guys, I know I can't leave you hanging on this because the Empyrean Ilynav preview also dropped. So let's go ahead and take a look. I know that there was a leak that was posted the other day. I don't like to cover leaks and stuff just because they're unconfirmed, but now that we actually have some confirmation on Empyrean Ilynav's abilities, we can go ahead and talk about her. So for this, right, she's actually a pretty interesting leak. Were accurate, they were correct. She is gonna be the unit that I think is gonna make people wish that there were more units like Genoa around. Honestly, in fact, it's funny because she kind of makes Genoa a little bit more irrelevant, right, because of her abilities. But let's skip all the lore and shenanigans that are going on, and let's jump forward to her stat line. So she actually has really high health and defense. I think she's the first Cancer Knight that's a 5-star base unit. So this is a completely new stat line here. It's pretty cool. Let's take a look at her skill 2. This is her passive, okay? So her passive increases penetration resistance of all allies by up to 30%. That is huge. It starts at 20 and you can increase it, right? With the plus 10 skill enhance. And after every attack that's suffered by an ally, she increases combat readiness of the caster by 10%. Now, we're going to take a look at the actual preview thing here. Okay, the penetration resistance is huge, by the way. It is insane. The penetration resistance actually makes it so that she is... she's protecting the whole team from Blood Moon Haste, Senya, from Genoa, all these units, right? Laya's S3, Lethe's, we just talked about her, Lethe's, right, extra attack, all these units that ignore defense, right, that penetrate defense, sorry, they're going to be rendered really weak into something like Ilynav, especially because she'll buff defense of your allies as well. We'll talk about that, though. But yeah, she actually does do quite a bit with her S3 too, so you see there, right? She got the Indomitable buff on everybody. So her S3 here is called Unyielding Blow, attacks the enemy and inflicts injuries onto everybody, right? Before dispelling 2 debuffs from all allies and granting Indomitable for 2 turns. It's pretty big, okay? Indomitable, if you didn't know, increases defense and effect resistance by 30%. The effect resistance is pretty nice to stack with other units that you build with high resist. This actually is a really good buff to use alongside units like Arya. It's good to keep units like Senya alive that have kind of anti-crit built into their kit as well. So it's pretty nice, right? The damage that she deals is proportional to her own health, which is to be expected. You probably don't have to build her with any crit rate, by the way, kind of just like Senya and stuff. You just kind of just go in, right? You could probably, we'd have to wait for the damage multipliers, but yeah, if her damage multipliers are great, you can probably build her a crit. If not, it doesn't really matter. You just chip damage your opponent down and injury them, and you just stay alive yourself, right? Because she actually has ways to detonate injury, and you can stack up injury with units like DDR and ML Shu as well. You don't have to rely solely on her damage to get the injury down there. But yeah, the injuries, you can decrease up to 20% every time the skill is used, which is pretty good. but it's also pretty standard, so it's nothing out of the ordinary here. So her S1 here, Sword of Punishment, she actually attacks the enemy, and she absorbs some of the damage dealt as health, right? So I don't know, it's probably going to be like a lifesteal sort of thing, maybe like 15% of the damage absorbed as health. It's not going to be significant, but it's going to be enough to just kind of top her off, keep her alive for a little bit longer, right, over the course of a longer fight. And she also inflicts injuries with this too, so she is basically the dream unit of mine. Because I don't have ML Shu, and this is just a tank down version of ML Shu. It's great. Anyway, the damage dealt that she has increases proportional to the caster's max health, just kind of like her S3 as well, and the severity of injuries increases proportional to damage dealt up to 10% every time you use it. If you soul burn this, not only does it increase damage dealt, but she deals additional damage equivalent to 50% of injuries inflicted on the target. So you basically, it's kind of like a DDR detonate type of situation with his S1, or kind of like Fire Ilynav's, right? Detonate with her S2. So yeah, this effect does not trigger a dual attack. Again, it's kind of just like Fire Ilynav's S2. This is just a better Fire Ilynav by leagues and bounds, right? Better. So what I wanted to see here is, so yeah, you see here, she'll detonate that, right? Blood Moon Haste already injury down really hard, and look at that. Extra damage proc, it's pretty good, okay? But we're going to go ahead and take a look at the preview fight here, right? Because what we want to see is, and I haven't confirmed this, I should have done this beforehand, but her passive that allows her to increase 10% combat readiness. Okay, so look at this. Look at where she is in the combat readiness bar, right? She is currently behind the Navy Captain Landy. Okay, so A Tywin's coming in with an S3 that's hitting all 4 units. And look at that combat readiness jump right there. That's huge. So this confirms that, because people were speculating, oh, it just doesn't matter how many people are hit, as long as an ally is hit, right? You're going to increase by 10%. This shows that every single ally who is hit increases her combat readiness by 10%. So she just gained 40% combat readiness right there. That is insane. If you thought Aeola was annoying, Aeola only increases 8% per ally that's hit. She increases 10%. So if your opponent is hitting you with Navy Captain Landy, let's say she counters and salvos you, that's 50% combat readiness for this Ilynav. She's going to be turn cycling so fast, it's like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Just running laps around you. Okay, this is crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to show that on the video here in terms of this, because the wording wasn't very clear, but now you guys know. Okay, but yeah, she is going to be quite interesting to use, maybe a fun unit to counter, like let's say Blood Moon Haste here, right? He has Ignore Defense on his S3. Look at that, just absolutely no damage whatsoever. But do keep in mind that a lot of people are probably just going to draft her with Blood Moon Haste, so if you thought that she was going to be a counter to him, think again. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys for today, so thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of Empyrean Ilynav in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.